Hey guys, welcome to the Be More podcast. I'm Brittany.
I'm Maria. And aren't you supposed to be the one to end this intro?
Yep, I did it wrong.
Yeah, you did it wrong.
I said what
And,
we were first. It's fine. We'll get there.
and
I
this is
have to
Be More
tell you,
podcast.
it's whatever. I have to tell you, I was not feeling great the last
Fair.
all of last week. Honestly, I really wasn't feeling that great, and I was having like a reproductive issue,
That's
and
the worst.
yeah, and it was making me very tired, like a prolonged type of tired.
Okay.
Um, because I was dealing with it. And I woke up, I went to sleep like relatively, well, I took some naps yesterday. And then I went to
Okay.
sleep at a not insane time. And I have to tell you, the combination of vodka and sunlight is just so
Oh,
good because I
okay.
slept well last night. And then this morning it was kind of sunny. It's been kind of sunny. And I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like a
sunny
regular
today.
person today. So, friends, if you feel like, I'm, oh my God, this weather and going like the earliness and it being dark at like 5 o'clock is just terrible. So,
Oh, it's
go get some
awful.
sunlight, friends, as much as you possibly can. And make
And
sure
if
you're
you,
taking your vitamin D.
yeah, and if you can't get sunlight and you somehow aren't taking vitamin D supplements, one of those,
Those
I
lights.
literally have one right in front of me. Those, seasonal depression lights, whatever they call them.
I don't
Literally,
know
I
if I
turn
get
this
to
on.
those.
I turn this on because where I'm sitting. I literally work here when I'm working from home, and I literally turn it on for like a good 20 minutes, and I feel fine after. So
Hmm,
it works.
that's good.
Yeah. So I can attest to
That's
that.
my 2 cents for the day. I will let
That's
you
that's also my 2 cents.
guide
Okay, so
forth.
me and Brittany don't have anything to talk about, but
We've
the
had
only
so many
thing
weeks. We've been so good with so many weeks of stuff.
I
We just
know,
the
and
holiday week
now,
coming up. It's like, ugh.
yeah, with Thanksgiving and then just the holidays and
Can I ask
whatever.
you I mean, I know what your feels
Yeah.
were on this last year, but apparently so last year, but and then I want you to talk about your thing, but we'll be relevant to
Um.
the holiday for a second. So last year everybody was super, and I know you were too. Everyone was in like a major depressive state and
I'm
getting
always a major
decorated for the
depressive.
holidays like really early was something that people did
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
feel good.
Okay,
And I know
okay.
that you participated in this. And now
Yeah.
it's something that apparently has stuck because there are people who are like full blown Christmas already. What are your feels on that?
I wish I had a Christmas tree. That's my feeling. Like right
Huh.
now. So like I wish I had just yeah, just it's I don't mind because like whatever gets people by. And if it's the holiday season then why not,
Well, I
you
mean,
know?
I don't care what other people do, but like where are you on like do you feel like you want to be like doing all of it now? Like are you ready to be like super festive?
Yeah, I was talking to my sisters and they're like, "Oh, we are supposed to put up the Christmas tree like 3 weeks ago." Like they're like behind on schedule. Like and I feel the same. Like I was there
Ugh.
at Target and they showed me like a tree for like $40 or whatever. I was like, "Can you just get it for me? Like I need a Christmas tree like somewhere over here just so I have something." It's just
We're
so and
on
it's just such
different
like a
ends of the spectrum this
it's
year.
just like such a Filipino thing. Like we literally did it September 1st last year.
I know. And I was understanding of that last year.
And now you're not? Are you over
I
it?
like you do whatever you want to do, but like I don't think I'm gonna do anything for Christmas in terms of decorating this year.
You've over decorated anyway with your wedding. Like
I
you're
think
forgiven
that
this year.
somebody brought it up the other day, and I can't even believe that Thanksgiving is this week. I
I
think
know,
this
seriously.
year I was so focused on Halloween, and
Hmm.
I didn't think about what was happening in the last 2 months after that, and I didn't at all think about the fact that it was going to be the last day of October, and that Thanksgiving was going to be literally like a
Like
blink of an
within.
eye
Yeah.
next, and then Christmas comes. So I'm not like physically, emotionally, any senses prepared for the holidays.
No, that makes sense.
I don't even want to I don't even want
Buy
to.
gifts. I was like, buy
Well,
gifts? Like what? Like just the whole holiday.
and I've been very open about my whole thing with gifts. I would much rather my family, and this is gonna, changing family traditions. Um, in the future, I don't think my we're gonna do something. We're not gonna get and give things. We're gonna do things
Oh yeah,
together.
you're more an experience based person.
I am, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just, and like I'm very grateful for all of the stuff that we've gotten
Yeah,
from
of
the
course.
wedding and everything.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I I am just more over it now than I think I've ever been, and I don't even I don't even I understand the idea of giving gifts, but I just feel like Dan and I were talking about this yesterday that my family does like a secret Santa, and it doesn't even feel genuine. Like I just feel like I've been in so many situations where I'm giving gifts that aren't genuine. So I think honestly what I might
That's
end up
fair.
doing is
Okay.
I might like giving a gift for the sake of just giving somebody something doesn't feel good.
No, yeah, I agree.
So I think what I might do, kind of going back to our episode last week where I said how much I like writing cards, I think I might just
Yeah, why don't
really write a really like from nice and really heartfelt cards to people and try to schedule time to like be with people and
yeah, whatever
instead
works
of
for you, as opposed to
instead
like
of
buying
doing
a material thing.
yeah, I
Yeah, why
just
not?
so I'll if there are people who I know that are really in need of things, then I'll be happy to do that. But I just can't. I can't. I'll never forget when I was in graduate school.
Yeah.
I met a student who was like 13 and she had already written a book. Like I have the name of the book is Proxy. It's
Jeez.
actually really cool.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
And
Cool.
it's like a book, like it's big.
Okay.
And she was just so ahead of her time being 13 and it's always been in my head. She talked about how every year on her birthday and like for the holidays and this was not pushed on her by any means. She was just like I don't know, was once a prophet in a past life or something.
Yeah, something.
She like goes out and does something good.
Okay, which is great.
And
Which is
like I don't know, that's
better for
always
the
just like
society.
been in my brain. Like I'd rather do that in
That-
some way, shape, or form. Or like something good for our family, something good for like just something good, period.
So then just do that. No one, you don't need
So
to explain it to anyone. You can just be like, "This is what I'm doing.
yeah.
Take it or
Well,
leave
you
it."
want to know what's fun is that that's the thing, right? Is that, and this goes with all things with life. When you are breaking traditions of like generational, whether it's societal or familial, like it is
It's hard
really
work.
hard.
It's hard work. Yeah.
This will make you laugh. So my mom, and we've had these conversations about like what
Okay.
we eat on Thanksgiving. If you haven't listened to previous episodes, go back and listen to like last year's episode about Thanksgiving. But my mom, Dan and I had dinner with my parents last week, and my mom is I'm asking her like what she needs for Thanksgiving. My mother's very traditional about the way she does her Thanksgiving. And she's saying how like my aunt usually takes care of the raviolis because we're Italian and we do raviolis and
Dang.
and she was like, "Can you do that so that your aunt doesn't have to?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." So I'm looking up different types of raviolis. I was like, "Oh, these spinach raviolis look really good." And my mom was like, "Absolutely not. We're not having spinach raviolis at Thanksgiving." And I was like,
What kind of raviolis was she expecting?
they're cheese ravioli, like they're
Oh,
regular
just
cheese raviolis."
traditional cheese.
And I was like, "I don't understand." And she's like, you're not changing the menu." And I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "Let me be very clear about something. You've been talking for the past couple of years about how you can't wait for me to take over Thanksgiving. You're not going to want to come to my Thanksgiving because my
Because
Thanksgiving
clearly
is
it's
going
gonna
to
be
be like samosas and tacos and
yeah,
like
yeah,
chicken wings. Like you're not coming. Like you're going to be so mad if
yeah.
I ever take over Thanksgiving because we're not doing this anymore." And she was
Bugging,
so
straight bugging.
mad at me. She was so mad at me.
I'm not
But
surprised.
it it's not and it's not that it wasn't good, right? Some people like that. That's not what I like. And if I'm going to continue a family thing, like we're not doing that. But it's so hard to on any front have to
The
change
norm.
away things from the norm,
Yeah,
which I think
100%.
this is a perfect segue for you to talk about changing things away from the
Because
norm
that's
and
the
having to
perfect
face
segue for
wait, I'm
this.
going to make it connect. Having to like change thoughts when things have been happening, whether good or bad for a long time. I want you to bring up what you were wanted to talk
Oh
about.
my god, I don't know how we got to Thanksgiving to the Kyle Rittenhouse
Because
jury,
I
whatever
feel like it's one of those
acquittal.
situations of like we've
There's
been
no good
letting
transition.
we've been letting this stuff slide as a tradition in our country. So when we have to it's just trying to change the tradition.
Yeah, so the only thing that has come to mind this week, the Kyle Rittenhouse case kind of finished the other day. And if people don't know what that is, it's the kid, he's literally like 18 now, so he did this when he was 17. Brought like I don't know, like an AR-15 like rifle to like a Black Lives Matter um protest, sorry, and like killed two people and wounded a person, and he was found not guilty on all charges. Yes, not yesterday, the other day. Do you have any thoughts on just this general synopsis?
I feel like the segue that I said was actually perfect for this because
Um, and
that's
he
all I have to say about it.
his reasoning was because it was self-defense, but also the background of him going to that protest when he was 17 was that his mom drove him with the rifle in hand.
So
So
why is the charges not passing on to her then?
I I don't know the legal stance on, I don't know the logistics of the law, but because he probably physically did it, that's why. But also he was
But
a
how is she
minor.
not? How is
But
she
he
not
was,
right? How is
yeah,
she?
he was
How
a
is she
minor with
also
a
not an
gun.
accomplice
You're right. I don't
to
know
like
to this.
premeditated like motive to all of like how and then yeah right if he gets acquitted then if he's underage how is right now falling on his mother then if she was in the car with
When he
him
did it, right? Because he was 17 when he did it. I don't
right.
know. I don't know the logistics of the law and
You want
how.
to know what makes me really angry about the law is that the law in this country is bent to the will of whoever can fund it.
In power, yeah. Yes, agreed. It's 100%. Um, so to further this, I'm sure. I mean, you're like not in the know
No,
half the
Maria
time,
is
more
actually
than half the
informing
time.
me about stuff, guys. I can't. I don't watch the news, and I purposely try not to follow the media. I mean, if and you want to know what? I am so grateful for you. Not to be like ironic of the fact of Thanksgiving, but like I'm so grateful for you because the things that are important for me to understand that are happening in society, like I
Yeah.
have either you or like one other person who will bring up important relevant stuff to me um so that we can like have conversation about it and I can be in the know, but I just can't I can't do media.
I
But
think
I'm
as
sorry, keep
a
going.
no, no, and I think as a white individual, I think you should know this.
Uh
That's
uh,
my stance
yeah, and
on
I
this.
like as we've said before, I have the privilege of being able to walk away from it.
To like
So
walk away from it. Exactly. So his defense was that it was self defense, like his, his whole stance. Um, he actually did get up on, and well, I don't know what, I literally can't remember what any of the legal jargon is right now, but he got up on the stand and like spoke and whatever. And during his like testimony or whatever, he like, it was like such bad acting. Like he broke down in tears. I'm putting air quotes up here, but like if you find like a random like 5-second clip of him like breaking down, I think I saw a tweet. It was like seeing like a high school kid play Les Mis like really badly or something like that to that effect. The crying was just like out of this fucking world. It just seemed so ingenuine, and that he was just trying to produce tears so that the jurors
uh,
could could feel bad for him. And I do have to put the, not the caveat, but like the added disclosure that the people that he did kill, the two that unfortunately got killed, were white men, and the other one that was wounded was also a white person. I think a white man as well.
interesting.
Um. So yeah, so he did his awful Les Mis interpretation, and then the jurors were picked by him somehow through a raffle. And the judge was apparently very accommodating, I will say, to his whole thing, because he's like, he was a minor and he's like 18, whatever. So then he got found not guilty on all charges, so he's like free.
So like
And
the what I don't understand is how does it end there? Right? Like so whatever, he's a minor, then you should be doing an investigation into how he even got arms in the first place and what the fuck his parental units were doing.
but this goes back to um white, I'm gonna say it, white supremacy, and the upholding of white individuals in power. Because I read an article yesterday about how angry white men are um what's causing the democracy of this nation to be like this right now.
Well, duh.
Which obviously I was like, as a BIPOC, I'm like, yeah, no, duh. I was like, no shit, like obviously, but like, so I just read it. I was like, yeah, I agree with all this. Like, is going to take an article for people to understand this, or like, is this just something that you're just reiterating, whatever? But like, it was basically like the whole consistent theme of American history has literally been white men,
Our country
angry white men.
started because angry white men came here because they didn't want to be told what to do anymore. That is why America started.
Yeah, and every time that there's a social, and I think I've said this before in prior episodes, whenever there's a social progress, like some socially positive progress, whatever, there's always backlash. So like take the prime example is Lincoln and the Emancipation
Yeah,
Proclamation,
yeah.
like all that Reconstruction and all that stuff happened, and it was very progressive. And then right when he was gone, and within like a couple of presidents, it went straight back to like the South and like angry white men. And then
Right.
again with Obama very recently, it's just literally the cycle. It's like, all right, very progressive. We have the first black president, great, and then Donald Trump. Like it's literally if you trace
Yeah.
back the very short amount of time this nation has had, it's been a cycle.
Like most things.
Very, yeah, very much
Yeah.
so.
But that, I
So
mean, it
it's not surprising.
it
It's not surprising, but it's sad.
and
As someone that is
that's
not
the
white,
thing
it's just
that's
like very irksome.
we talk about this so much too, in that like progression isn't linear, right? And with every progression and every growth, there has to come discomfort and sacrifice. Like that's like the foundation of growth. And
Yeah.
it's just sad that it's almost kind of, it's like a sadness that, you know, for every action there is an equal opposing or opposite reaction. Like there's, for every good thing that happens forward, there's just as terrible of something else that comes in rebuttal to it.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
eventually, right, the scale tips. Eventually.
If yes, assuming that the scale like keeps going in that direction that we want it to, like
Right, right. There
yeah.
has to be, and we've talked about this too, there have to be enough people who are awake about what side of the scale they're walking to.
And I think there are, but also there are still people that aren't. So like I'm a very avid fan of just documentaries because that's also how I get information, whether it's pro or con my opinion.
Mm.
Um, and there was a documentary, and I thought about it, and I was like, wait, like yeah, we're progressive compared relative to like the boomers and whatever, but also those boomers and whatever generation before us are literally grooming, I guess, their children
Right.
to be
There's
the
nothing you can
same,
do. Right. Well,
right?
you want
And
to know?
yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
no, and the thing is like you have to hopefully trust the young people to somehow deviate from their parents perspectives, which is so hard, which is like
And
it's
we just talked about, right, when you, even if you
literally
do choose to be the person who
is a bigger
deviates from
person.
your parents or
Yeah,
deviate from that which you come from, it's a hard battle.
yeah,
And like
100%.
you're
It's a lot of
fighting the whole
trauma.
time, right? You're
It's a
fighting the
lot of
whole time,
trauma.
and sometimes it's easier to just give up and go with the water, the way the water is flowing, but it's not.
Because they can come in and say like we are bullshit, and like whatever you're spewing on this podcast has been complete 100% bullshit,
Yeah. Oh,
and
totally.
like that's just their. And I can go on like a very alt whatever right wing, right, yeah, whatever, um podcast and be like, this is completely not the reality that you're living in, like it's completely wrong. But also like that's where media and social media comes to play,
Yeah.
because they're being fed their own opinion and not the contra.
Right. And it's
And
hard
like you
enough to,
it's hard
and
enough to
it's,
like look for that
and then
stuff.
it becomes a bigger issue, right? So like, so my mother was actually bringing this up to me, and I don't know too much about it, but
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to do a revival of Grease on Broadway.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And like, first of all, Grease is like one of my favorite shows ever. It's a classic.
Yeah.
And people of our generation, so this is like both sides of this. And I, again, don't know too much details, but people of our generation are fighting its revival
Fighting, okay. Interesting.
because, and they're trying to
Yeah.
get like cancel culture on it, because the storyline makes it seem like Sandy, who's the main female character, like gives up her virginity and gives up like her innocence and changes her life for this guy, and this guy gives up his life and changes his life for her, and then they both have to like make all these sacrifices to change their lives for each other, and that it's not a good message for the youth of our world.
Okay.
It's so
But isn't
funny.
that like every other story that's in Hollywood?
So why are we not teaching our children to be rational about the issue at hand? The kids that we are raising these days are so much more intelligent than we give them credit for, because they
Yeah.
have a lot more sense to look at something and be like, okay, that was a story, right? Like to understand where things are coming from. Then like why
There's a
are
lot more
we
critical. There's a lot more critical thinking that's happening
right?
than
And if it would be different if it was like, I don't know, like a live action drama. You know what I mean? Like they're watching, like I know children that are watching Big Mouth and are able to laugh at it Like
And like
they're
not
not
take
supposed to,
anything
it's
from
not
it.
appropriate and they shouldn't be
Yeah.
watching it, but they watch it and they laugh at it and they think it's funny and they're talking like they bring up like the psychological undertones of the show. Like they are smart enough to know like, oh, I
Yeah, they're more
probably
in
shouldn't
tune.
try to reenact Grease in real life. And then we want them to be so smart and so perceptive and so able to think on their own, but then we're going to tell them, "Oh, you can't watch Grease because it's real, it's just not, it's
It's
not
real
politically
bad.
correct. It's
But like also
terrible."
there's like other worse things that are
But they
already
can go on
streaming.
Netflix and watch fucking, I don't know, like
You?
Tiger King or You,
Yeah.
right? What You
Yeah.
is like fucked up, but
I've never
also
watched it,
brilliant.
but
Dude,
yeah.
oh my god, it's brilliant. But like I just don't, the double edged, like it's almost like a backhanded compliment to these kids to be like, oh, you're so smart, you're so able to do this on your own, but we're not going to take away the really bad shit from the world, and we're not going to stop you from watching the news or stop you from being able to get involved in all of these things that are way too above your pay grade, quote unquote, but
Yeah.
we're going to take away Grease.
Of all things to take away.
I don't understand. And I
Isn't
don't know if
there
it's really
another
coming from our generation, but I really don't understand this whole like cancel culture. And like, okay, when it comes to, I can get behind the understanding of like, let's stop praising this white man who's a statue on our campus who did all these terrible things to people. I understand if you want to autocorrect that, great. But if you're taking things away from like, that's a part of our pop culture that actually has some good morals behind it. I'm sorry, but Grease does have some funny good morals behind it. You're taking that away from kids because you think that it's a bad message to send them. I'm sorry, but how about you stop sending them out on the streets and telling them it's okay? How about you stop sending them to the doctor and telling them that it's okay to be taking prescription drugs consistently and getting access to things that are, you're saying, are good for them when they're becoming addicted to prescription medication at a young age, but you're telling them that it's okay. So how about this bullshit censorship that we're trying to pull? We get the fuck over ourselves and
huh?
actually acknowledge the scary shit instead of pulling this bullshit. That's how I feel about all of it.
Yeah, just to bring it back, like giving your minor whatever rifle
Right.
and driving them to a protest.
I just
Literally driving your 17-year-old to a protest, full well knowing it's not like he had a little, handgun. It was literally like he was carrying it.
but I mean also a little, even if he had a little handgun, I
Yeah,
don't
no, that's
understand. It's so funny. I was just talking to our friend Christina about this yesterday.
mm,
Because we were working on a show together and we were talking about the reality for a lot of children these days. Do you remember Monsters Inc?
yes, I love that film.
So I don't even remember when Monsters Inc came out. It's been
A while ago,
a while, like
yeah,
probably
we're old,
20
like
years, yeah.
we're
And
old.
I remember how I like the like in the movie they talk about how it gets got, if you've never seen Monsters Inc, I'm gonna give a spoiler right now, so please don't
Okay,
listen to the rest of this if you've never seen Monsters Inc and you give two shits. But
yeah, skip like
um
30 seconds ahead.
in the movie, the whole point of what they do is they collect scares, right, to be able to
Yeah,
have power. And they talk about how it got harder and harder because kids are getting so much more exposure to things and they're so jaded about what's really scary and they don't have fear to be afraid of the monsters anymore.
yep.
And it was so funny at that time to be like, wow, that's such a weird concept. Like that is the world that we live in now. These kids
Yeah,
don't, and it really is like
like how
it is fear, and the fear, we have fear in the wrong places. Like we instill fear in the wrong places because we've talked about before how like our society really does, a lot of the world runs on fear right now, but kids have like emotional fears. They don't necessarily have like fear of
survival
consequence
of like
or
survival fears,
right, they don't have, they're not
like
afraid of consequence, they're not afraid of like any like, and I don't like to say authority because I think that like I've been traumatized by authority, so I don't necessarily think that you should be afraid of authority, but they don't understand what consequence means. They don't understand how their actions, that they are responsible for their actions and that their actions bring consequence. And that like lack of, it's like a detachment. It's like a, I don't even know. They have no sense of
well,
it.
cause like what are you gonna do when you live in a society where like every other week there's like a mass, like not mass but like a school shooting or like protests and like all
And
this
well,
stuff.
the trial that you just talked about, this child that took action is not seeing consequence at all.
He literally, and like
The blame is just being passed off to somebody else and it's out in the ether now and no one can point to it.
there's no exactly, and not even that. It's because he knew he could get away with it.
Right.
It's
But this is what I'm
because,
talking about. And this is what I think that kids have this. And then what's
but
super
I also think it's the white kids.
no.
I
I mean,
I
I
more
think
so than
I
more so
white
than the
kids totally
BIPOCs.
have it, but when it comes to like and I don't see the outskirts of like major behavioral choice. Like I've never been in a situation where I'm looking at a kid deciding to pick up a gun, thank God. But
Mm.
even like behavioral, like day-to-day choices, almost all the kids that I deal with who are and they're of all different races and all different backgrounds, um, there's a lack of sense of understanding what consequence is. And then
Hmm.
the worst part is when you do instill consequence, and this is why, parents
It's
make
like
it an
hell
issue.
breaks loose in their
They've
world.
they've never seen that before, and then their parent steps in to try to protect them from it.
Yeah,
And then
because
they go on being the totally derpy, no sense and it's sad because most of those children don't do that maliciously. They're just unaware because no one's made them have to have the awareness before and then their parents defend them from it. And it's not okay. The whole thing with like the whole thing in the world about not about telling people no and telling people like having to even the thing with like oh you can't tell somebody something bad, you have to sandwich it between like two good things.
I'm
I'm
so
sorry
over
but
that. I'm so over that. Why are
if
people like that? Just tell me XYZ and don't
if the
like skirt
world
around
is
it.
coming to an end, if something bad is happening and the world is coming to an end, I'm not going to turn around and be like, here's a good thing, here's the bad thing, here's a good thing. I mean, and then that's why, right, when we go into moments of crises, we don't know what to do as a nation. Right? We're so shocked into that freeze of like, how do I handle this? Because we're not handling it's not about what we need to be doing. Here's my little standing up on I'm on my box right now. What we need to
Uh-huh.
be doing, and we've talked about this in so many other ways, and we talked about this on the stress episode. So if you guys didn't listen to 2 episodes ago, listen to that. It's not about the fact that we need to be able to avoid these things. It's about that we need to step up to the line of where these things happen with better coping mechanisms and better management plans to be able to strategize through them instead of backing the line up and saying that they don't exist. And it happens with negative feedback. First of all, people don't know how to give feedback, but it happens with negative feedback. It happens when negative things happen in life. It's not about stepping away from the line or trying to erase the line from being on the ground. It's about being able to have like a real strategy about how to walk up to the line and manage whatever's going to be facing you when you get there.
Yeah.
But no one is
Like,
standing behind anybody anymore. Like, and this we talked about this episodes ago
I
too
just
with
feel like,
accountability.
yeah, and like people are sensitive more, so than not.
But it's
Or
like
like they're
sensitivity.
sensitive to the other. Here's the thing.
I
I
don't.
think the
But
issue
how are
is
you
no,
so
no. Here's the
one-sided
thing.
sensitive? I don't understand
No,
that.
I think the issue is that people are very insecure and think about how other people think of them, and they always want to be the nice person. But like that just I think it's stupid.
Well, then we also have a whole thing of putting labels on people for if they're not that way, right? We're so quick to call judgment. I'm constantly on the end of that. So
Yeah, I'm
like,
constantly judging people,
and
duh,
both of
obviously.
us, I have to say, we will say this, have gotten better at being able to approach it, right? With like,
Yeah,
you can still say something that's not going to make somebody happy and say it with a kind heart, right? Or not say it maliciously.
yeah.
But it's like I really don't understand. I really don't understand it, and I think that too, that sense of like breeding in the fact of trying to protect so much and trying to shield away from is like you're breeding by fear, right? Like you are parenting and you are influencing others because you're afraid of whatever consequence is going to come. So you're trying to control that consequence by saying, well, if I only do good, if I sandwich the bad news around two good things, then they can't be mad or they can't be upset. But it's not
It's so manipulative, though. I don't think
right.
it's
And
it's just wrong.
that's 100% what I think. I think when we're not And people, and I've had moments where someone will say something to me, or they'll be like, this person did this, and I'll be like, that's the most manipulative thing I've ever heard. And they're like, is that like, that's not manipulative? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally fucking manipulative. I think that's what I think it is. I think, and I agree with you on that. I don't think it's, oh, I'm going to be nice, or, oh, I'm being, if you're not being straightforward, you're manipulating. I feel myself like about to sneeze, and I'm trying really hard not to. You can, and I've been in tons of situations. What you should still say it. You shouldn't say it while your emotions are still running high. You should say it
I think
when
the
you're
easiest
calm, which is also
also
hard.
also I think the easiest way to, even if you're super emotional at the moment or not, like just be like, I'm saying this for not to hurt you, or something like in the fact that to like give someone a heads up, like
Something
that.
not so nice is going to happen right now.
Yeah, and just be like, it is what it is, and like you can take it or leave it, but I have to say XYZ.
Yeah, I have only now gotten to that point 10 years later with Dan where, and I still worry about like how he's going to respond. But I only now get to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to say what I need to say, because I'm also not a person who can walk around with the things that I need to say. Like I need to say the things that I have to say. I I say them to say them, and I'm like, I'm just gonna say it, and you're probably not gonna like this, and that's okay. But and like in those moments too, sometimes it's good for you to hold up the mirror to the other person, because we both do that to each other too. But it you just have to, because
Kind of have to do it.
honestly, if we go back to all of those things, right, that we were just talking about, that's the place. That's why we talk so much about like, if you see something, say something, because the lack of being able to speak about things. And then the things that we do, that's another thing that's just like fucked up, is the things that we do speak about are just irrelevant nonsense and not important. Um, and instead of talking about the stuff that matters.
Yeah, because there's a sense of like the world is too fucked up that there's nothing you can do about it.
It's this weird, like, the dichotomy of existence these days is just, I feel like it's harder because it's the spectrum is so much longer, and I feel like it's growing every day. Like I feel like, and this like perfect example is how I was feeling, right? Because I wasn't feeling good when I me and my body are like, me and my body are together, right? Like if something's wrong
Yeah.
with my body, it messes everything up with me. Like I
Mhm.
just, it messes up my emotions. I get like immediately like not in a good place. And then on top of that, decided that I was going to listen to Adele's 30 album, and it was just way more than I was prepared for, and like hit
Yeah,
in
I
all the
haven't
right
listened to it
spots.
because I know. Yeah.
Make sure it's broad daylight and you're like
Or like I'll
out.
turn on my light.
Yeah, because it's just, especially if you're somebody who struggles with mental health, like, and the fact that
Yeah.
she's like our age, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was just not, I was not in a good place like 12 hours ago, like a really, really
Uh-huh.
scary place 12 hours ago.
Uh-huh.
And I was there 12 hours ago, and now it's like, okay, I did a couple good things, and now I got sun and I was outside, and like I actually saw some of the good stuff in life again. And it's like now I have to travel all the way back to the other spectrum. Like that journey is far, and the climb back up is really hard. And then every time you fucking fall, it hurts. Like it hurts
And it's
really
easier to
bad.
fall though. It's
Oh
also
yeah.
easier.
And it's easier to stay there than it is to climb back up.
Yeah, because the climb up is just annoying with anything.
Cue
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus.
It's
But it's like it's harder. Like it's harder. I
harder
wish,
with age.
I have moments all the time where I wish we lived in a time where I could be oblivious, and
You
I
literally
could
just want to
be
be like
unaware,
secluded. No,
and
you
I
just
could be very simple. Like I wish we lived back in like Little House on the Prairie times sometimes, because
you
like
can do
life
that.
would be so, honestly, you should see when I drive like past, like there are farms and stuff a couple towns from us, and I drive by and I'm like, I should, like, this simple life sounds so great, but like it's harder to be a person nowadays because we have, there are so many, I feel like more people are out and traveling and seeing all these beautiful places all over the world and taking pictures and sharing in these happy moments, and then you scroll, or 2 seconds later you get a notification about a mass shooting or a mass like drug injections. Like there's no, this, the spectrum from like the good to the bad that happens is such a bigger dip in the roller coaster and whatever regardless of what direction you're heading, it is so intense all the time.
But here's the thing though. People are so used to it now.
I'm
Like
not. I'm fucking tired and confused all the
the
time. How are
general
people
public
used to that?
the general public are very used to,
Uh,
oh, there was a school shooting in insert state name here, and you
anyways.
just kind of scroll through and you're like, huh, another one, and then it's just like that sucks. Even with like this Kyle Rittenhouse case, it's like he was found not guilty, and I was like, huh, I could have called that 10 days ago. I guess I'm really not surprised, and like half the
I
population
mean,
is like, I'm
was it
not
10 days
surprised.
ago? Because after it happened, a lot of us were like, oh, great, another white kid with a gun who's not going to get in trouble for it or who's not going to see like a real consequence for it.
Yeah, and like that's just
That's
it
worse.
perpetuates the cycle because it's like, the Capitol rioters did the same thing. Like, I mean, they are getting reprimanded, a few of them now, so like their court cases are going on now. But like people in this country are just, it's just like, yeah,
You want to know what's so funny is that we have, and I see this so much of the time in the environments that I'm in, being somebody who has a business, right? Because being able to have a business and operate a business and not have anybody talk to you or say anything to you about it is literally one of the only things that I have like a solid like this is a great thing in our country that I have to come back to all the time because being a place like the opportunity to have a business, I mean, and like in any sense of like you can walk outside and be
yeah,
like I'm going to start selling shoes now. Like there's an opportunity for that to be an equal place. But the more that we keep fucking with each other, the way that we fuck with each other,
there's just so much
we
social
take
unrest though.
we take it away from ourselves. And like amidst all the other bullshit that happens in our country, like a lot of other countries, um,
Mm-hmm.
we always still have that. And we still have the opportunity to talk about it, right? Like to do like what we are doing here. But
It's, yeah, keep
we
going.
put we put our we put our foot in our mouths in a way because we are focused on the wrong things, right? Like instead of being like, "Oh, this is the land of opportunity. I can get access to public libraries or I can find a way to get access to there are a lot of free resources available, right? Or find people who are going to be in support instead of doing that and making what I want to do with my work or my career or my profession instead of holding on to that and making my choices with that, I'm going to complain about how immigrants are taking all the workable jobs available in our country.
Yeah, put it
Or,
into the perspective of like when we talk about white supremacy and racial injustice, like that's great and I agree, but also it's like the 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 white man specifically have more opportunity than, the if there's a hierarchy of anything, black trans women. It's
oh,
just
yeah.
like
Oh, totally. Oh,
it,
totally. But, and
you
that's
know,
within the, but that's if we stay within the systems that were established by those white men, right? And
and
that's the
we
thing too,
still
is like,
are though,
how
but we
dare
still
you
are.
how
And
dare the white men or the people how dare the white men who want to cry and bitch about things bitch to anybody because your ancestors are the ones who made it that way. Like you've done this to yourselves. Like the issue and the shit that you're in right now, no one else did to you. Like your own families and your own previous generations have done it to you. So I don't why do you don't get the like I don't even create space for conversation there. I'm sorry. Like there's nothing to be said. Like you just that's on you. But I think if we really look outside of those established systems, there is space for right in our country as opposed to right like obviously you're not even getting to the right of being a seen, heard, acknowledged trans person in a lot of other countries in the world, right? So like there is space for and here's a perfect example like we have a family member a cousin who started like he's he's gay and he started his own beauty line because he has a population that has been able to emerge in this country that he connects with and he wouldn't be able to find that any in another like potentially in another country because there's not he doesn't have the opportunity at hand and he doesn't have the ability to build connections the way that he does here. He doesn't have the right to speak in other places and live his life and choose choose a lifestyle that he's chosen for himself, that he wouldn't have that somewhere else. So there, even if there is a difference in race, or there's a difference in sexual orientation, there's a difference in any of the isms, or I feel like we
Yeah.
need a
Other
better way to, like, yeah, any of the
other.
other things, like, there is still a foundation for there to be more here, but it requires all those things that we were talking about, in really having to, you have to step out of that normal system for it.
And it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's not gonna
It's not
happen.
happening enough.
No, it's just not gonna happen. In this country, I don't think so.
As our No, I don't think our entire system's going to change. I think that everyone's going to have to abandon the regular systems, and that I don't like that's, and then there's going to have to be an overthrow. I hope we're not alive when all of this happens, but that's really what I see happening. Enough people have to, in any of the, like, ideal quotations, like, if you were to look at what the the founding fathers would have wanted the ideal American life to look like, if, as an entire country, if the majority is not existing in the other from that ideal, there's not going to be enough space for that type of revolution to happen. Or it's going to be really fucking messy, and like you talked about with everything with the, like, the emancipation, it's going to be a cycle where it's not going to be a big enough shift, and we're going to, and somehow end up cycling.
Because whenever a white man's power gets even remotely moved an inch,
Right.
they are rioting.
Right. So, like, that, there has to be enough, outside of, like, without the walls, right, that are on the other side of those ideals, in order to make change happen. And I have to say, with the influx of people, I mean, thank God we saw people who are immigrating to this country after all the bullshit they've been seeing. Like, there's gonna, talking about, like, that balance tipping, there's gonna be a point where we have, and I'm saying this as a hopeful person, that I believe in this being, and again, I don't expect it to be happening in our lifetime. I really don't. But I see there being enough immigration to come into this country, and enough
Mm-hmm.
difference to come into the country, that the balance tips and
So
something
white
has to
people are
change
the minority though in this country, I think.
across the board.
I think so. Do
Or,
you want
like,
me to go?
only
Yeah.
within, because I'm telling you right now, I have a cousin, like, a friend who lived down in Arkansas, and she was the only person of color who lived in Arkansas. I mean, like, across the board in the country. I don't mean, like, on the edges of the country where most of the people of color live. I mean, like, across the nation.
Oh no, we're still the.
And we live in,
What
like,
is
those
the
community bubbles,
percent?
which is not surprising, but I mean, like, we need a full on, like,
60%. So they're still majority. But that's
because
I
then
don't like
at
the
that point,
census. But here's also the thing. I could give you okay, it said 60% in 2020. Fine. But I also don't like the census. This is a whole
oh
different
no, I don't think the
conversation.
census is
I don't
relevant.
think the census is right
Not
because
enough
like it's
people are
so
filling it out.
limited. Not even that. It's
Um,
just so that
I
too.
can get on
It's
your
so
side,
limited.
though, to even say that it's possible that we do have more people of color. But I'm talking about, and this goes back to previous episodes where we've talked about, right, like, the way that people don't fear the other is when they have to be amongst them and they know the other, right, where the other becomes a we instead of someone else. So, like, even if we are living in a populace in a country where we have more people of color, if all of the white people are over here and all of the colored people are all over here, all of the people of color are all over here, and there's not a lot of integration between the two, you're never going to see a push on those values, or, like, that change of that, moving out of that place of fear.
Not even that. If you want to get political, the gerrymandering and the way that districts are also structured and redrawn every so often. I don't know the specific when they restructured districts, but that is also political. Like that also changes the landscape of Congress.
For
Let's
sure.
just say that.
For
The way
sure.
that like there's a very simple example like if there's 10 districts and you split it one way, it's equal. You get 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. If you split it another way with gerrymandering, you can get all 10 Democrats. Split it another way, it could be 8 and 2 Republican. Like the gerrymandering is so American and plays to the system of white men.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a the whole system from the beginning has been fucked. It's not like this racial unjust Black Lives Matter protests and all this stuff is just new. Like it's
No,
literal. I mean, like
it's sewn
slavery was
into
like I
the
feel like
foundation
slavery
of
was like
our nation.
70 years ago.
It's sewn
We
into
learn
the
it like it's
foundation
like
of our nation. It
we
is
learn
who
about
our
it like
nation
it
is.
was like hundreds of years ago. Literally, I saw on TikTok this one girl's great grandmother who is still alive was like, "Yeah, I remember picking cotton." I'm like, "That woman is alive and she was a slave." like we learn about this like we're okay. Like this wasn't our generation. So it's
And
like,
that's like
mm-hmm.
that's that's what I mean, right? Like we need
Because as a white person, what what is like I don't
I always knew that that was fucked up and something was wrong. Why do you think I got in all the fights with our history teacher in high school? He goddamn hated me because I was always like, this is not okay. This is why are we talking? Like we brushed over so many, and this wasn't his fault. God bless him, but we brushed over so many things, and I hated that damn class because I felt like I was being lied to all the time.
okay.
I like there. I have nothing to say. I don't
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it because I don't understand how other white people don't. I don't mean to say that as like a, as if like they're, because I'm very happy and very fortunate to know a lot of people who understand this because I wouldn't be friends with them otherwise, or they wouldn't be in my life otherwise. But I don't understand that there isn't some foundational unrest with the way things are and the way things have been, and the fact that people think that there's a huge difference between the way things were and the way things are now. I don't. It feels like there has to be somebody else in some distant galaxy far, far away watching this, and the entire thing is set up like a satire because that's that's how life feels these days.
um yeah, I mean like the hope obviously is that in history books kids in the future are going to be like they were so stupid, right?
Well,
Like
now I feel like we learn I learn more about history from, like you said, documentaries and outside sources than I ever took.
from like articles on like big, networks and stuff and like news
And
networks.
like most of our historical education.
This is gonna be disjointed because Brittany's computer stopped the recording for a second.
Yay!
What were we talking
I
about? I
literally
don't.
have
I'm
no
just
it. It
mad.
threw me off guard so much that I am just not in. We're talking about
History
history.
books, history, American history
Getting you were in like the
sucks.
middle of something.
I
Getting in
know, and like I don't remember.
getting information from new places. There people are more
Oh,
susceptible.
the people that are the people that are looking for contra opinions or opinions that are not theirs and like trying to find the other side. I know we've talked about it all the time. Are not
You want to
are
know
the
what
people that are the people that are being annoying right now.
you want to know
Are
what's
the people
coming
that I'm
to mind
annoyed.
right now, and I don't know why, but I feel like this is a good analogy. It's like
Sure.
it's like when we get mad, right? Okay, so like here's my example, right? Uh a guy, like a boy, right, gets a girl pregnant and
Yeah.
claims that like he doesn't understand how she got pregnant because like he pulled out or whatever the reasoning is, or they used a condom, right? Or like he because he went to a health class but was only about how his genitalia works and how his reproductive system works, but wasn't educated about how her reproductive system works. You know what I mean? Like
It's self-serving,
you're only learning what's right, what's about you and what's relative to you and what stays within your lane. And
which is why social. Yeah,
when something goes wrong, it's
you don't
not your
understand why.
fault. Right.
Yeah,
It's not
because
your fault and you don't understand. That
yeah.
so what we should be doing
So that's like
is
the
that we
American
should be
system.
gathering everybody and talking about we need a safe space, key here, right? Talking about safe from last two episodes ago. We need to create a safe space and somehow get people to and get engaged in it where people can come together, talk about what their stance is, and then in a really
Productive, safe way.
yes, be educated about like maybe not even just opposing views but alternate views to theirs.
Yeah, correct. You would think that in the land of the free, though, that the Black Lives Matter protest would have been a safe space, but with this kid, literal kid, getting a rifle and opening fire.
But again, this comes back to the powers that be who are supposed to be in charge of the safety, who are supposed to be in charge of of creating, like, it
So
comes back to
point
the person, right? If a toddler,
case in point though, this happened. If it was again, this is unfortunately an example that's thrown all the time. He was a black man doing a black 17-year-old. Forget it. The
I
kid would
know,
have been
I know,
shot
but it comes
or
back to,
life in prison.
it's like there's a teacher in a classroom who's got a bunch of open flames just like unattended in the classroom, and the toddler runs over and burns his hand on the flame. You're not going to yell at the kid for putting his hand there. You're going to look to the person who's in charge of setting the environment. And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to all of this shit that is happening in our country, when we turn ourselves to look at who's in charge of overseeing the protection and the safety of the environment, they don't want to take responsibility for the fact that the chaos has ensued the way it has. It is just like everything that who the hell, what the hell was the name of the guy that had the people get, well, I never remember whose concert it was that I talked to you
Travis
about.
Scott.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, how did that entire, I've heard no one talking about that situation where like a 10-year-old was killed by an opioid overdose because someone stuck a needle in their neck. We're not talking about that anymore. But Travis Scott is not owned up, and that's probably the reason why no one's talking about it, is because I'm sure his entire PR team made sure the whole thing was swept under the rug. But instead of placing the blame where it rightly should be on the fact that they should not have let all those people in and they did not control that environment at all, let's just sweep it under the rug and act like it didn't happen and all those people who were killed.
And I don't believe that he didn't see anything happening. I don't believe
Absolutely
that
not. You're full
one
of
bit.
shit.
And
And
you've been on stages.
and
You can
that's like
see everything.
that is
You
like an
know, like
overarching he. It's not like the one him. You were on a stage with a shit ton of people, and there was a bunch of fucking crew working your entire, like. Don't give me that shit. I'm sorry. Like the I this whole people not. Why is it that if I don't take responsibility, if I drop a fucking shoe in the middle of the street, I swear to God, God's coming down and shooting me with lightning and making me take responsibility for something? But people can get away with this shit and nothing happens. I don't understand. This is a problem, and something has to be done about it.
um I don't know. I'm just look, I'm sick and tired of white people.
Agreed.
That's my stance right now.
Yep.
Um I just again am not surprised that this happened in this nation in this current time. I have no, it's tiring. It's tiring.
And now let's go celebrate a holiday that's all about white people doing what white people do.
Taking over the taking over this land. Yeah, sounds about right. Very American.
Manipulating a bunch of people to get what they
And the
want.
very American thing is obviously after we give thanks, we go and plow people over for fucking TVs at Walmart. So like, you know, America the Great.
It's just it. I've said before, and I'll say it again. We have just proved that you can't, when you give people opportunity.
It's not opportunity.
This is
it's
gonna sound
power.
terrible because
No, it's power.
like
it's power.
when you give people a sense of freedom, that's what they see as the power, and they don't go towards the things that could actually benefit them. They go for the instant gratification of being able to wield that power in some sensible way. We are the great human experiment of a society, our country, and I don't think it's going well.
We're actually very embarrassing. I don't
think it's going well.
Like one of the last things I'm gonna say now today is that like the QAnon people and alike, whatever you want to call yourselves, I really don't feel like they're Republican. Number one, like I feel like the GOP before the 2012 election or whatever was like fine, like we can reason with them. Yeah, like okay, great. Whatever this like alt right, I feel like it's right because Democrats are left. If I'm wrong,
I'm not going to be able to support you in any way, shape, or form because I don't think
that's fine.
I don't think that the political stance at all matters at this point. I think it's just like a sense of
but it does. But it does because again, I read an article yesterday, and again, I did not do any further research on this one point. But there was a point in an article saying that 30, at least I believe the figure was 30% of Republicans deem violence as an answer. So like, take it as you will, whatever.
I don't think that's a political thing. I think that's a human thing.
But yes, I agree. But they're on the face, they're in the Republican Party. I'm saying the Republican Party before this, whatever this whole alt right situation is happening right now, used to be reasonable. You could reason with John McCain. You could reason with these people beforehand. Once Trump came into power, you couldn't reason with anyone. That's the thing. They're literally using, because we're a two-party system, it would be a whole different story if they started a new party. Forget it. No one's going to go to that new party. So they infiltrated the Republican Party.
But this isn't politics is the outcome of the insanity that's happening behind all of it. I think if you pull away,
But it is entwined in it. You can't take one and not talk about the other.
that's what I'm saying. But this is what I'm saying. Like it's gotten to the point where it's gotten this far now. But if you go back and you pull back, like if you took politics and you took the ability to label themselves, right, with whatever they're out, whatever fucking side of the field they're on, you took the ability for them to take all of that identity away, right? Like they are using something as a vehicle because now it's conveniently sitting in front of them.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. But also, like, the fact that the GOP hasn't stopped it is also wrong.
Well, and then that comes from like who has manufactured the vehicle and who's getting the benefit from it. And
Who do you
that's
think?
I
Who do you
know,
think?
and that's what the circle, right? That's what the politics is no longer about politics anymore. Politics is about all the things that we've just talked about where you want to
There
be
was
the
literally
person who's
there
able
was
to
literally a
bend the will
quote.
of the power to get what you want. That's what
There was
politics is.
literally a quote from a representative saying, "We're not producing enough angry white men to stay in business." Like, so you are literally just,
I
this.
don't know. This is like the Frankenstein situation, right? The monster gets too big and too intelligent for you to do something about. How do you put it down?
And like, so back to my back to the initial point, it is those people that are in like that party or whatever you want to call that sector of the GOP that's doing not, the most, that's doing the most for the social unrest, is so embarrassing to the outside world. Like, it,
Oh
it
yeah.
is like, again, a case in point, I talked to my family in the Philippines, and I just, and one of the examples is like the anti-vaxxers. They're like, are you serious? Like, that's a thing that's happening in America,
Well,
the
it's a thing
place
that's
where.
happening all over Europe too. Anti-vaccinations isn't just
But just taking
bound to this
America
country.
in the scope of, the lens of what I'm saying is like,
I mean, it's more hysterical because it's more funny to look at, and the irony of it's ridiculous because we are also way more unhealthy and have way more unhealthy lifestyles that we need to be the people who take the vaccines because nothing else is going to help us.
but even so, like, yeah, sure, it's just like, why you think that we are the greatest despite all this unrest is beyond me. And the fact that other countries can
But they
see
also
it
they also
and they
have
spin it
the
within their
things that
own
they have
media.
pride in are not the right things to be prideful about.
Right, because they're so siloed into white supremacy, and I'm just taking QAnon because I keep rewatching this documentary. It's like the best documentary I've seen recently. It's just like, they're so within the little bubble that they've created, which happens to be the bubble of white supremacy. They're just not packaging it in that way, and
That's
that
just intelligent marketing, which
they
is
can't. Well,
disgusting.
they did their own marketing. They
That's what I'm
spun it.
saying. It's gross, but it's effective clearly.
Yeah, just say you're racist and call it a day.
And that's another thing too, right?
Just say you're racist and call it a day.
Don't put a bunch of pee in a bottle and then put a label on it on like that it's like Gatorade. Like that's not how.
It's
But
just
it's also like
literally.
you should be intelligent enough to open the bottle and smell it and realize that it's pee. But at the same time, there are some fucked up people out there who are going to drink the pee and be okay with it being pee.
Yeah, they're drinking Kool-Aid.
Right.
So,
Except in my mind, it doesn't deserve to be cool to be called Kool-Aid. It should be pee.
and it actually wasn't Kool-Aid. It was another liquid. Um, I don't know how Kool-Aid got that branding. Anyways, um, they're just embarrassing. But they don't think that they're embarrassing. They think that they're within their rights as a American citizen, the we the people, the
You want to know
whatever.
what
I'm
this
like,
sounds like? This literally sounds like, and it's kind of gross that it sounds like this. This is how the Nazi Party started. Just saying.
Yeah. Also, I neo Nazis and just Nazis and just all that. It's just so like again, that's white supremacy.
Hmm.
But also within the Nazi party back in Germany, in the 40s, when was Hitler? Yeah,
Yes.
also did kill white people. I think here's the thing about white supremacy, right?
Well, it's
It's
not
not
about.
no no no
It's
no.
not
Hold
just
on,
about your skin color.
wait. No. Hold on. White supremacy is only they don't care about the whole white population. Let's
Right.
be real here. They
They're
only care about the
elitists
people.
within the white population.
They only care about the people that are within their
And that comes back
circle.
to that idea of the ideal, right? They had a very specific ideal of what a white person was. And it wasn't just what a white person was on the outside, it's what a white person is when inside, right? It's what a white
Right.
person thinks. And that's what's scary about the QAnon group is that it's not just about your skin color, it's about what your belief system is. And people are so strongly attached to their belief system that that's why it's so
Which is
easy to
why
pull pride out of these people and pull us like a foundation to stand on that they are not going to waver from because it's not just about their skin color. It's about the beliefs that exist behind that skin color. And that shit is a lot scarier and stronger and more potent in a Kool-Aid than any fucking like skin color would be,
because
to
it
be
is
honest.
I mean, like, let's be real here. If you have watched any QAnon documentary or read articles on them, like their beliefs are like pulled from pop culture. Like it's like the weirdest fucking thing. And like,
This is what
the
makes them
Q
it more dangerous because it's even more relevant to current
and
like
from
living
fiction.
the current
Here's
people.
right, but like they pull those things that are relevant to them. And the perfect example is like whenever Q, the head of QAnon, whenever Q posts something, he can have one prediction, but will have 99 wrong ones, and they will stick with that one and think that the 99 are just flukes. They're like, oh, he just messed up. Whatever, it's fine. But he got this one hit
What you're
and
talking
predicted.
about right now is literally religion also. So I just like I none of this is the problem with why like the cherry picking, right? Cherry picking is something that our existence of us is like our existence as like beings is we're just really good at. But like
Yeah,
I
you like just listening to the things that you are agreeing with, but don't hear the other 99 wrong,
and you don't
quote unquote
the
wrong
part that is
hits.
dangerous is that you don't give a shit about the fact that you having these beliefs is dangerous, harmful, or detrimental to anybody else. That's what makes right, and that's what makes a party of beliefs dangerous. Because and that's why religion gets away, well, except for like the crusades and shit, but that's what religion is, a peaceful way to practice, quote unquote, to practice, right? Because you're not, if you are in within the bounds of like practicing a true religion that's not going to be, doesn't cause harm to others, good, join a community, get your beliefs going, don't cause harm to others, be open and accepting of other people. But the second you cross that line when you're doing harm onto others, that's when flags go up.
And in the land of where you're free to religiously congregate, right? Like have their own religion. I It's hard when the politicians are like we should only be swearing on a Bible.
But our country was founded on the separation of church and state, even though that's a whole bunch of bullshit.
You
I
can literally
don't
swear on a
believe that at
dictionary.
all. I don't think
But
that's
you
true.
can swear on a dictionary
I don't
or
believe
anything that you want. You can
I'm
swear on
sorry,
a
but church was created as an extension to oversee a population as an
Oh,
extension
I
of state.
agree. I
So
agree.
the whole like that's the fallacy. We're living within a fallacy right there. So it's just like there are so many contradictions. It's just I swear to God, there are aliens on a distant planet that think that we're the funniest shit on TV, because the the ironies, the satire, the hypocrisy, the the blatant manipulation and the choice, the Wizard of Oz of the whole thing is just, it's
Mm-hmm.
so sad that it's funny,
Yeah.
but it's not funny. But
Yeah.
it's I don't like
So, to close this out because I am running out of time today. Closing remarks, Brittany.
I was not prepared for this conversation today. I would like to say that first and foremost.
Yeah. What are
I
your closing
just
remarks?
I really just think
Let's just not just because I was too general, like on the future
No, no,
of
I think that the two of us are very clear at the clear in the fact that we the basic ways that we get to make a difference. Maybe you're somebody who's listening to this and maybe you're in agreement with us. Maybe you don't have agreement. That's fine. Maybe you don't agree with all the things that we're saying. And good for you for being able to listen to something and critically think for yourself and be able to make a
yeah.
change and whatever. But there are some very foundational and basic things aside from the conversation that Marie and I just had, but ways that you can push the balance. Maybe we'll fall into another cycle of having to set it off again, but you can push the balance, and the simple ways that you can push the balance are having conversations like this. Because Maria and I getting flustered and having this conversation, if somebody listens to this and thinks of a way that they're going to maybe like the way that they're going to vote, even though I know a lot of local elections just passed, but the way that you're going to vote at the next when the next elections come up, and when I say elections, I don't just mean presidential elections, the way that you are going to choose to stand up for what you believe is right and voice your own opinions about things and give yourself the space to define what your own thoughts and opinions are about things. That is my second thing. And my last thought is that, and thankfully, like I said, I'm in a good place today, so I'm okay with having this conversation. But when we have these conversations, and no matter where we see the how many friggin' thorns are in the barrel of hay that we are jumping into, um, you're having we have these conversations for a specific intent of wanting to call the bullshit, wanting to make change about the bullshit, and believing that there's something better that could happen. And those are the things that you need to be able to walk into conversations with once you've decided what your own thoughts are on things and once you've actually done something to take some action about it other than just complain about it. And that is why Maria and I complain about it, because we do take action in other ways to
Yeah.
support our thoughts. That is my thoughts on this.
Very cool. I just think that there's a lot of work to do all the
Agreed.
time. It's
Always.
disappointing. It's disappointing when things happen like this, obviously, in the nation that we live in.
Sure.
It's more disappointing when it gets consistent in a way that's like
That people can become
not
jaded.
even a novelty anymore, if you can call it that, but like now just a way of life. But I mean, you gotta work. It's a lot of work, even if it's in within the small community that you've garnered in your circles around you. Like it's still a lot of work. But then that snowballs into whoever you're affecting.
Uh, and this is, I feel like our ending for today can't even be like, don't be afraid to be like, be more because you deserve to live better. I think that the bottom line is that
Hmm.
I'm going to use a universal, like an all inclusive we here, but like we need to be responsible for ourselves and we need to choose to do better. And just like we talked about helping people, like the people in our lives with stress and making space, we also need to be responsible to make space for these conversations to happen, because if we're not taking the first step to do that, then we're not making the space for change to happen. So,
Yeah, I agree. M- make it a point in your I don't want to say daily life, but like just every so often in your lives to like have these conversations, because like I have them all the time off the cuff, even if like I'm not mentally prepared for it, but like or like not mentally, but like not like linguistically prepared for it, but am like mentally. Um, just because it's also just good to know for your own sense how the people around you feel about things. Because like if you assume just with anything, right? If you assume that y'all are on the same page with someone on certain things that you're very passionate about and they're not, it's actually very hard to to come back from that.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah. All right. I'm good now.
Okay, good. I'm so glad. So yeah, going back to what I said before, I we deserve more than what our founding fathers set out for us.
Mhm.
So, in order for us to get there, we have to do more and we have to be better.
Okay. Great. We good? Was that it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye.